Access granted.
Hey, what's up? As we are approaching the practical part of this course, I want to talk about how we, as QAs, are embedded into the software development life cycle, or so-called SDLC. And then spice it up with some interesting and personal stuff. Everything starts with an idea, a scheme of interconnected blocks of what we are doing, who's gonna benefit from it, and how we're gonna monetize this shit. Then it goes to something of a market research for the selected niche, planning basically. Then we gather requirements on what do we want our product or service to have. The best thing for QA is to take part in the whole process from this phase, from the gathering requirements phase, I mean. Because early knowledge equals clear vision. The designers draw their mockups, BAs and architects create logic and infrastructure. This is actually a good time for documentation, but still rarely someone does it. Then comes the coding and testing part. Developers do their job by creating the front-end or back-end logic, and you, as a QA, you do your job to make sure that it works as expected from the user's perspective, as well as from the business perspective. Business perspective in this case means that we are collecting all the necessary data here from our users. Sometimes it's user personal data, sometimes it's user journey. Just for the record, any user action, any human action or any human interaction with a machine, within an application, within the browser, nowadays all of this stuff can be tracked, and it is successfully tracked. This can be tracked up until the point on which coordinates on the screen you actually click. So that's how much data is being collected nowadays, actually. Especially on some, already developed and stable projects and applications. Because in the end, it's all about the data value. Well, we get money from working with data, so enough said. Then all of this shit gets deployed to the public eye, and it gets maintained. These are so-called post-release hotfixes if we find some defects after we deployed our application to the production, and our users see it and they give us some negative feedback regarding some of the functionality that doesn't work, so we gotta urgently fix that stuff. So that's why it's called hotfix. Then we have the testing in production, we got the customer and tech support channels for user communication, and of course the user feedback loop. And then based off the feedback, this cycle starts anew, because we either implement new functionality, or we fix the old one, or we just redo the old one because we just found out that our client wants something else rather than we have originally planned. And that's basically all you gotta know about this mysterious SDLC process. It's everywhere, in every project. So you cannot turn away or run away from these things. So just embrace it and enjoy the process. Grind, блядь! Alright, so as I promised, now I'm gonna share some personal experience regarding the toxic management cases and situations that I've had the misfortune to encounter throughout my career. Or so-called being a victim of. But I don't like that word, and I don't like the victim mentality. But so it happens. We learn not only from positive situations, we learn, and probably we learn faster, and the quality of our knowledge is actually better from the negative situations. Such is life. Alright, first and foremost, personally, I am not an easy person to get along with. That's a fact. I know that about myself. I've self-reflected enough for that. And that's me. I accept myself. I am not a knight in a shiny armor. But I'm also definitely not here to expose anybody. So I won't be calling any specific names. I will just give you some situations description. I'm sharing with the world. And all I'm trying to say is that you can avoid lots of conflicts or potential conflicts just by being an adequate human being. Because, quite frankly, there's no need of being an asshole if there's no demand for it. And I'm also not the guy who's gonna terrorize you for every little mistake you make along the way. I'm simply a man who's had enough of bullshit and injustice throughout his entire life. A man who's simply speaking his mind. Alright, so where was I? Yeah, I was speaking about the micromanaging leads and people who know little to nothing about your job, but still tell you how to do it. So just imagine, you've got your tasks, you fully understand what's going on, you have it all figured out, you are coding, you're fully concentrated on the process, and a lo-fi hip-hop mix is playing in your ear. And out of the blue comes this team lead or manager that has nothing better to do with his own life rather than ask you stupid questions like, how are you doing? How's life? What are you doing right now? Do you got time to chat? And so on. Wouldn't you just shut your fucking mouth and fuck off, you fucking cunt? How about you take that for a fucking answer? Because really, sometimes some people have to shut up because that would be good for business. Listen, Listen, I get so enraged just because of the simple fact. When you are fully concentrated on the coding process and you got it all figured out like 10 steps ahead, you see the final solution, you see the final implementation of the task, and somebody out of nowhere interrupts you, it takes around like 10 to 15 minutes to get your mind, to get your brains and to get your concentration back on track. And that's a lot of time. Imagine that happening multiple times a day, and it takes this time to get back on track each and every time. So basically, when the work day comes to an end, you're just like, what the hell have I done today? And then the same people gonna ask you why you're so slow. Because you're fucking interrupting me. Can you just get it through your head? Your lack of planning is not my fault. If you're a manager, please plan everything out so well that you have to ask minimum questions or no questions at all during the process. Besides the situations where some stakeholder comes in and you just have to recreate some functionality from scratch, or rewrite some solutions, or try to implement new solutions. So that's like completely different situations. I think you get the point. When you get interrupted while working on something technical which requires attention and precision, you get really fucking mad. Alright, so that's one thing. Another thing which is funny is that age has nothing to do with this. I've had a team lead on my first job who was younger than me, and I've also had a boss in his mid-40s who thought too much of himself. I've also had a chance to meet some neurotic, egotistic dumb fucks who couldn't even set the task straight and would just love gossiping all around instead of doing the work. These people usually say that I've heard you, or we've heard you, you have been heard, your opinion is very important to us, but it never really is. So pay attention here, folks. Don't fall into their manipulative traps. Oh yeah, one more important thing. So please correct if I'm wrong, but I have only encountered such abusive and compulsive behavior model while working with the Slavic people. We even have a saying which in English goes something like this: I'm a boss and you're an idiot. Like what? What? Yeah, speaking of that boss who I mentioned earlier, who was in his mid-40s. I once had an amazing project based in Australia. Amazing people, like truly, one of a kind. I really fell in love with that project. I really did. It's a super rare thing for me. I was writing automation tests using the Cypress framework at that time, and also setting them up in the GitLab CI/CD to run on the cron schedule. For some of you this may be lots of unfamiliar words. Just follow me along this. This shit was new for me, like completely new. So it took, I guess, 3 sleepless nights for me to set it all up by myself, with no outside help at all. I have managed to do it with all the right security details. Only me and a couple other developers had access to the GitLab testing repository, which is basically a virtual space where you keep your code. Then this sniffer shows up, says how cool it is, and that he is literally feeling ecstatic about this solution that I've provided. But then somehow he says that this solution is not secure, even though this is a private code repository for which you can get access only via invite, and only specific people, which means specific accounts with specific IDs and credentials, can have this fucking access. So he says it's not secure and that I have to redo it all. Like how? He doesn't say, he just says, just redo it. Because I fucking thought you should. No argumentation, no fucking common sense or whatsoever. Just redo it. Okay, whatever, fuck off. No matter how, no matter why, no arguments provided. Just fucking redo it. It's like, meh, I'm a boss, you're a shithead, that's it. I don't care what you think or say, it's only I who matters. Sick fuck. So I burst out in anger towards him, and I took my time to say, fuck you, you Soviet-era shithead. And I left the project. Was I wrong? Am I the one to blame around here? I don't think so. And you know what? I've never been happier to stand up for myself. The only sad thing about it is that I really loved the project. But I guess sometimes you gotta make the sacrifice so that you don't end up in hell with a co-worker like that. But that's his story. It's his burden, it's his ego that he must overcome and all that shit. It's not mine anymore. Thank God. I'm not filming this video for the people who did me wrong to see. I'm not doing it for them. But you know what? For everybody throughout my professional journey so far who did me wrong, and you fucking know it, that you did me wrong, I'm not mad at you. I'm actually thankful for the experience you gave me. Yeah, I'm a slow learner sometimes. Not technically, but people-wise. But I still learn. And thank you, everybody who did me wrong, everybody who did me some negative stuff. I thank you all. I really do. I thank you and fuck off. Okay, so to wrap this shit up, I'd like to say that we, QAs, matter on the projects we're working on. No matter what other people think, because they have never been in our shoes. And believe me, sometimes you don't want to be in our shoes. So be thankful and be grateful for the roles you have, because our role is ever changing. Are like the middleman in the midst of this storm, where you have to connect business, the technical part, the end user part. You have to, tie it all together somehow, even with the stakeholders. You're trying to see things like from multiple perspectives at once. It's a crazy thing to do. It's a crazy thing to process with your mind and with your consciousness. So just let us do our job, what we do best, which is quality. Not being over technical, not talking too much about nothingness, but just doing our job of providing the best quality of the product that users can actually click and touch and tap. Isn't that so difficult to understand? So, folks, do not settle for toxicity, and do not settle for uncertainty. And most of all, do not settle for dumb fucks who try to control and manipulate you. Love y'all. Till next time. Peace!
Young, black and British, you can hear it in their voices, you can see it in their faces, frustration, growing anger.
Access denied.